A great brand is a half step ahead of reality. We need to be out there telling folks we're better than we are.
That's what it's about, baby, is speed.
This is the fastest city in the world. Celebrate our inner Ricky Bobby and just go fast.
And how do we think about marketing ourselves to the rest of the world? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Today, I'm joined by Matt Mindrum, president and CEO of the Indy Chamber. Now, Matt has over 2 decades of leadership experience from iconic Indiana institutions such as Eli Lilly, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Butler University. He's a proud Hoosier with roots at Indiana University School of Music and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Matt blends creative insight with strategic vision to drive growth and innovation all across the central Indiana region. Today, we're going to get a pulse on how central Indiana is performing economically versus the Midwest and beyond, how central Indiana is investing in workforce development, and cover a few new initiatives coming down the pipeline from Indy Chamber. Matt, welcome to Get In.
Thanks, Nate. Great to be here.
Man, I'm pumped about this one. I've got to meet with a few of the staff members from Indy Chamber for a while now, and the stuff you guys are doing is really moving central Indiana forward in a great direction. So first off, hats off to you and the team.
Thanks, Nate. It's an incredible team. Glad you've gotten to connect with them. We're excited about the work we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to get into the work that you are doing and the initiatives that you guys are currently working on, we kind of got to take one step back and talk about Indianapolis, central Indiana, and how we're performing against the Midwest and the rest of the country. And to start with that, it's what stats or metrics are you guys tracking at Indy Chamber to see how we stack up?
Yeah, great question, Nate. You know, when I started this gig 15 months ago or so, if you'd asked me how central Indiana was performing economically, I probably would have said middle of the road in the Midwest. As soon as I had a chance to dig in, I really discovered that things are much better than that. We should be proud of our economic performance in central Indiana. Gross domestic product, we're leading the Midwest. And when I say leading the Midwest, not just on a percentage basis, on an absolute basis versus Chicago and other much larger markets. The same on net migration, so population coming to Indiana, number one in the Midwest. The same is true job creation. The same is true of closing the racial earnings gap. So in fact, we're doing that better than any other city over 1 million in the whole country. So a ton of really great things to be proud of and excited about. And those are some of the metrics we track at the Chamber.
So that was GDP, it was net migration, racial earnings gap,
And jobs.
and job creation.
Yep.
And is that largely fueled by big enterprise or startups, or where do you see us winning?
It's a great question. When the data came out in late 2023, I sort of assumed you'd be able to just see pharmaceuticals, for example, as maybe one of the primary drivers, with Eli Lilly crushing it here in central Indiana. And it actually wasn't. The bulk of those jobs were coming from mid-size and small businesses. They were in professional and financial services. They were in manufacturing. So really broad-based growth economically and from a jobs perspective.
Heck yeah, I love that, and I think that's fun to see startups thriving as well as Eli Lilly. And oh my gosh, have you listened to Dave Ricks?
Dave Ricks.
Yes, he did an interview on the All In podcast. I was just so impressed with how he talked about what Lilly is doing and fighting obesity. And I would put lots of money into Lilly stock because I think that they're going to continue to keep ripping.
It'll take lots of money to buy one share of Lilly.
Yeah,
stock,
true.
So,
And with their new investment into Lebanon, up in that corridor. And I keep hearing about all these different corridors that are being built across the state, right? Like the life sciences corridor, the hard tech corridor. Do you have any insight into the different industries that Indiana is diving into?
Yeah, what's pretty exciting is watching central Indiana get bigger. So, for a long time, I think people thought about Marion County and Indianapolis. Increasingly, in recent years, folks have thought about central Indiana as including the donut counties, the 8 additional counties that surround Indianapolis. And now I think that definition is expanding even further, and folks are thinking about central Indiana really as everything. I like to talk about the universities. And it creates a bit of a circle. You go from West Lafayette to Crawfordsville to Greencastle to Terre Haute to Bloomington to Richmond to Columbus to Richmond up to Anderson and Muncie. All of these incredible institutions that are within a 60 to 90 minute drive of Indianapolis, with the interstates, with 69 being extended down to Bloomington, with all the development happening along 65 and along 69. The labor shed, the space that we're thinking about with workforce and talent looking for jobs has really expanded to that degree.
So Indy Chamber is focused or working on all the way out to Crawfordsville and Greencastle and Columbus.
So today we represent a 10-county area in central Indiana. So it's Marion County and Indianapolis. It's the 8 donut counties, and then also Bartholomew County, which is where Columbus, Indiana is. So both from a membership perspective, our 2,000 members, 80% of which are small and mid-sized businesses, come from, and we represent about 400,000 employees across central Indiana. Those businesses do. Those are in that 10-county area. The same is true for our economic development focus. It's in the 10-county area. But when we look at partnerships, when we look at collaboration, and when we start to think about strategy, truly, it is out to Terre Haute. It is up to Lafayette. It is down to Bloomington.
And as you're talking to, whether they're chamber members or just business leaders across the state, what's the big problem they're coming to you at the Indy Chamber with?
I'd say talent and workforce is number one. A big chunk of our business is serving existing businesses. A big chunk of our business is attracting new business investment. And you really can't do either of those things well if you don't have a strong, skilled workforce who have the right skills to meet the demands of growing industries. So both growing current businesses and attracting new businesses, it's really all about talent.
So the number one problem that business owners across the state are coming to you and talking about is workforce development, talent attraction. And what programs or initiatives do you see springing up across Indiana that are helping solve that problem for business owners?
Yeah, first I'll say, I mentioned earlier how well we're doing compared to the rest of the Midwest. When you zoom out a little bit further, you'll see that the Midwest is not doing as well as the rest of the country. There have been some pretty significant population shifts really out of the coasts and out of the Midwest to the south, to the southeast, to the southwest. So there are places that are growing. Dallas, Fort Worth last year grew by 150,000. They grew by Lafayette, Indiana. Meanwhile, we were leading the Midwest with net migration of about 13,000 in 2023. So you're just talking about an order of magnitude difference in the growth.
Yeah, over 10 times.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's so 10 times more people moved to Dallas than they moved to Indianapolis.
That's right.
But versus who do we compare ourselves to across the Midwest?
Yeah, we look at Minneapolis, we look at Cincinnati, Columbus, Kansas City, and of those Midwest comparators, we are leading. However, Columbus and Kansas City are really right there nipping at our heels. They also were in the positive.
Hey, if we're beating Cincinnati, I'll take that, right?
Yep,
so more people are moving to Indianapolis than they're moving to Cincinnati.
Amen.
Net migration. So the Midwest as a whole, though, so you're talking about regions in the South, you say Southeast and out West?
Yeah, really throughout the South, Southeast, Southwest, Texas and Florida. 10 out of 10 of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the country are in either Texas, Florida, or Tennessee. North Carolina is right in there too. So a ton of places growing really fast. We're growing, so that's good news. We need to keep on the gas there, but there's a lot more work to do.
What do you think is helping those regions in the South besides weather, right? If I don't think that many people move just because of weather. I know it's a little bit of it, but what do you think is helping the Dallas, the Nashville, Charlotte, I think is up there in net migration? What's helping fuel their growth?
Yeah, weather and natural resources or amenities is definitely a big piece of it. We always hear folks talk about mountains and oceans, but there are places without mountains and oceans that are growing. Charlotte doesn't have mountains and oceans. They're a little closer to them, but they don't have mountains and oceans. Same with Austin, same with Nashville. I think some of these cities, first of all, they all exist in lower cost of living, sort of relatively low tax states. One of the things that is clear from the data is that young folks today are increasingly moving to lower cost of living places. For a long time, they were all going to the coast. They were going to Boston. They were going to New York. They were going to California. And I think folks just realized they couldn't afford it once they got out there. We were in Boston recently. The Boston Chamber just did a study, and over a quarter of their young people, 25 to 34-year-olds, said they're planning to leave Boston in the next few years, and it's really driven by cost of living. So I do think cost of living is a big deal in finding that balance of a place that's affordable, but has what you're looking for, the amenities you're looking for, et cetera. And I think Nashville and Austin have done that incredibly well.
And you talk about cost of living. Like, it's not cheap to live in Nashville or Austin anymore.
No, it's not. But it's a lot cheaper than New York. It's a lot cheaper than Boston.
That's
It's
fair.
a lot cheaper than San Francisco. And you're right, though. People are starting to get priced out of those markets, too, which is an opportunity for us because we really do bring a pretty compelling balance.
What do you think has helped fuel Nashville's explosive growth over the past 2 decades, a decade maybe?
Yeah, 20 years ago, Nashville looked up to Indianapolis on almost every economic metric. So they had 500,000 less population. They had lower per capita income, lower GDP per capita. Their net migration trends were not as strong as ours. 20 years later, that has all changed dramatically. And I think what's so interesting about Nashville is they really have done it on the backs of a brand, of a strong identity around Music City. So that's something we think a lot about. Austin, I think, has largely done the same thing around weird.
They're well marketed.
Yeah.
Like whoever did the Music City or Keep Austin Weird marketing, whether it's the chamber, the mayor's office, or whatever they did there, like those people deserve a raise.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's always messy. And the story around around Nashville, we went to Nashville a few years ago. The chamber took a group of about 100 leaders down to Nashville to study municipal marketing and branding, and it was messy. There were a lot of folks around the table who said, country music is our past. It's not our future. Our future is healthcare delivery. Our future is corporate headquarters. Our future is higher education. But I like to think that there was a smart marketer around the table who said, that's great, but find me a recent college graduate who wants to move to healthcare delivery city, right?
Healthcare delivery city.
It just doesn't have the same ring to it. So I think it was hard to get there, but eventually they coalesced around music. They leaned into it, and today the impact that's had, far beyond the music industry is just evidence.
Yeah, and it helps that like country music's cool now. Like in the last 5 to 7, I've always thought country music is cool. I love country music.
I'm with you on that.
But it wasn't always cool, and now it's like the cool thing. Like Post Malone does his, Beyonce does her country album, and everyone's like, let's pack up. We're leaving New York. We're going to Nashville.
Post Malone, who has his clothes made here in Indianapolis, if I'm correct.
Really?
I can't remember the name of the guy, but there's a guy here in Indy who makes his outfits.
No way.
Which is another great story.
See, this is subtle foreshadowing to what's going to happen this summer, but we're going to get a producer in here, and that'll be one where it's like, Robert, look that up, and we'll figure out who, and then we'll be able to give it a shout. So we'll have to go back and do some research and figure out who Post Malone's designer or fashion expert is here in the Circle City. I love that. Speaking of Circle City, right? You talk about that's really well known. That's a phrase that I use. I think I first came across and got to be in a room with you as we kind of talked about branding of the city of Indianapolis and how we're thinking about marketing our central Indiana region. So from what you're hearing at the Indy Chamber and all around leaders in central Indiana, how do we think about marketing Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think a ton of really great work has happened in a lot of places. So, I want to give a huge shout out to Visit Indy. They've done just an incredible job. Leonard and Chris and I have been friends a long time. Leonard's an amazing peer over at Visit Indy. The work they've done there is incredible. Leaning into the Indy brand, sort of getting people excited about the visual identity they've created, having all the NDY that you can stand in the eye that has been around for quite some time now. They've grown our leisure tourism and our convention business just dramatically, which has led to more investments in more hotels and more convention center space and the football stadium and everything else over the years. So massively great work happening in the tourism space. And related to that, I think the Sports Corp as well. You just think about the work that's happened around sports in Indianapolis and what that has meant to this place, and it's incredible. I do think there's an opportunity for us, though, especially around talent and workforce. Not as many folks have been thinking about how do we get folks to come here, not just for a visit, but come here to live here and stay here and work here. And the same is true when it comes to economic development and getting businesses to come and think about locating here. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about, especially with talent, what drives them, what drives folks to think about where to move, what drives them as they're assessing the sort of their perception of the city that they live in, whether it's Indianapolis or somewhere else. So we did a ton of work last year with a ton of partners, those I mentioned, and a half dozen or a dozen more. to really dig into that. What drives people to make decisions about where to live? Where does Indy exist sort of on the spectrum versus our competition? And where might there be an opportunity for us to lean in a real meaningful way?
Well, so you did the research, the data. What is the perception of Indianapolis to people that don't live here?
It's either a blank slate or they immediately think about racing and sports. You don't have to go. You can go around the world, and people, when you say you're from Indianapolis, people will say, Indy 500. I was in Athens, Greece, when I was in college. Got in a cab. Guy said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Indianapolis." He said, "Vroom, vroom." So I just think that is. And then he asked about Bobby Knight next, which I thought was fascinating. But people know us around the world for racing. And a good buddy of mine, Christian Anderson, I don't know if you know Christian well, or if he's been on the podcast, but we are known around the world for something that is objectively cool. Speed, innovation, fast cars. We should be leaning into that. So I think that is definitely an opportunity. And when you compare us to other cities in the Midwest, Minneapolis is known for a mall. Cincinnati's known for chili. Chicago, fascinatingly, is known for their restaurants, but I don't think they're going to be the restaurant capital of the world anytime soon. So it's pretty cool that we do have awareness throughout the Midwest, around the country, and around the world for something as cool as racing.
Yeah, speed is like a badass thing to be named or to be known for, right?
Yep.
It's like, it's like music, speed, like those are cool. Like sports, that's fun.
Yep.
That's a good branding. And I think that a lot of times I sit in conversations and people are kind of hesitant. It's like, Indy's just known, like we're just known for speed in the Indy 500, and you almost want to but we have all this other great stuff.
Yep.
And we almost want to stiff arm the fact that we have the largest single day sporting event that happens right here, and not you don't want to totally be Indy 500 has its brand and image, and there's a lot of legacy and amazing stuff there, but it's also some hillbillies drinking beer in the center, and you don't want to be totally known for that either, right? But how do you see people in the conversations that you're in talking about whether we embrace that or do we go in opposite direction? How do we think about marketing ourselves to the rest of the world?
Yeah, it's a journey, just like it was in Nashville, I think. And if there's one thing I know after a lot of branding experience at Eli Lilly and at Butler and at IMS, it's so subjective and it's so emotional, right? Everyone has things they really like. There are folks who are really attached to Naptown, folks who are really attached to Circle City. I think we find when we go outside of the Indianapolis bubble, though, those brands are either not known, or if they're known, people don't know what they mean, or that they have a negative connotation to them. So, I definitely think that it's going to be a journey for us, sort of identifying how people react to this, how people are willing to lean into it. You mentioned, speed being associated with racing. I think that's the key. It immediately conjures an image of the race. It immediately resonates. It makes sense, and that's huge. It is so hard to build association with something new, right? I mean, if you're a brand builder, you can't just pick something out of the sky and say we're going to be the Silicon Valley of the Midwest. People keep talking about that in a variety of places, and it's never really worked anywhere because people don't know any place in the Midwest for that. The folks that
and you're trying to be something else. It's like an asterisk by it. It's like the greatest cup of coffee in the world if the world was only in Indianapolis. Or, it's like the little asterisk of like the Silicon Valley of the Midwest.
That's
it's like,
right.
That's a mouthful.
Or, a great place to raise your family. Absolutely, we're a great place to raise your family. A place, inexpensive cost of living. Absolutely inexpensive cost of living. There was a great Drew Classic, who's a professor at IU Indianapolis, when I was in a leadership development program a decade ago. He said that Indy's brand is cheap, almost cool. And he's probably not wrong about that, but I think there's a lot better ways we can say it.
Yeah, no one wants to move to the cheap, almost cool capital of the world. But I'm sure there were similar conversations around that table 20 years ago in Nashville, right? 2005, Toby Keith was ripping, and they're like, we don't want to be known for country music and banjos, And now, with the shift of country music being cool, it's awesome. It's a great place to be, and it's vibrant. And I think with the shift of F1 making racing cool, racing is up and to the right. People are all about speed and the showmanship behind these races, and to host the biggest race, the biggest sporting event in the world. I think leaning into that just enough to really capture this interest from the rest of the world at a time when racing is cool, like Drive to Survive. Is that Absolutely. What? Yeah, right. Like F1 is And I asked Doug what we have to do to get an F1 race, and
It's a long conversation.
it is a long conversation. And people, I posted that clip and got like 500,000 views or something, and people are, Indy doesn't need a race. They had a race, blah, blah, blah. Like F1 people are passionate.
Yep.
That's one thing. We talked about the big problem, right? So obviously there's the marketing and brand of Indianapolis, how the world perceives us. And I thought there was an interesting piece or a fact that from the committee meeting that I was on, that I always call it the Circle City, but like you go out in the middle of Kansas and say, have you ever been to the Circle City? And the majority of people have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. And even the majority of people here in Indianapolis can't say what it means or what you should take from that brand. So yeah, I think, and by no means are we suggesting that any of those other monikers need to go away. We'll always have Monument Circle, will always be the Circle City, will always in some ways be Naptown. I think hopefully that takes a more positive connotation and a cultural connotation, which is where the direction that's been heading. We do think it is time to lean into something that resonates and really communicates our authentic, compelling, differentiating value proposition for folks. And the race and the immediate connotation with the race is one thing. It goes so far beyond that, right? Just during the process this past summer while we were doing this work, I was watching a Pacers playoff game, and they were doing the flyover before the game, and the ESPN announcer came on and said, welcome to Indianapolis, the world capital of speed, where speed is the essence of these Pacers. And, the Pacers were the highest scoring team in the NBA last year, but there's a lot of different ways to talk about highest scoring. They chose to say speed. They chose to talk about speed. And that's because they're in Indianapolis.
The world capital of speed.
Yep. And then Mike Tirico, watching Cole Hocker win the 1500 in the Olympics, Mike Tirico immediately afterward, right off the cuff, said, doesn't that get you out of your seats? Cole Hocker from the city of speed, Indianapolis. So I just love that, because the other thing I know about good brands and good marketing, it's when you lean into something that's already out there, right?
Yeah.
That you can be really effective. And this is already out there. And those two examples have nothing to do with racing, right? Racing's the easy one. But those two examples are about Olympic sports. They're about basketball, which of course we're known for. And then you start thinking about the applicability of speed and the importance of speed outside of sports and racing completely. You mentioned Eli Lilly and Lebanon earlier. One of the things that Dave Ricks said several times last year is that it's all about speed. We want to be the fastest. The currency of growth is speed. And they would not have they would not have invested in Lebanon if it wasn't shovel ready, if it wasn't ready for them to go. So that's $13-14 billion of investment that we got because we were the fastest from an economic development perspective.
Speed. There's like a great quote from Ricky Bobby that I won't put out there, but that's what it's about, baby, is speed.
That's what I said. We all, I said at the beginning of this, I'd love to get to a place where we can all sort of celebrate our inner Ricky Bobby and just go fast.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Roots Realty Co., the absolute best real estate team here in Central Indiana. Listen, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you need people who actually care about our Indiana community. That's Tyler and Max over at Roots Realty. These guys aren't just slinging houses, they're building communities, helping people find homes that actually fit their lives and making the whole process way less stressful. They're not some big corporate machine. They're real people who know Indiana inside and out. Whether you're a first-time buyer, an investor looking for your next deal, or just trying to get top dollar for your home, these guys have the expertise and the hustle to make it happen. They're out here doing great work, not just in Indianapolis, but all across Central Indiana and beyond. So if you're in the market, or even if you're thinking about it, hit up Tyler and Max at Roots Realty Co. and they'll take good care of you. Check them out at rootsrealty.co or meet them in person at one of their upcoming investor masterclasses. More details on their website, rootsrealty.co. Let's get back into it. Just go fast. I love that. It's like Indianapolis. Speed to get a house is so. How do you make what is it, cheap and almost cool? How do you make cheap and almost cool?
That's the thing. It's interesting because there's also one of the other messages we think we can deliver with Speed and Speed City is it's the fastest place to accelerate or start your life and your career. What you just said about a house, yeah, houses are cheaper here than in other places, but what does that mean? It means you can buy your home 3 or 4 years earlier, your first home 3 or 4 years earlier than folks in other places, and that's true. That data is there. You can pay off your student loans faster. You can start a family faster, because we see all this data about folks starting families so much later because of cost of living and the expense of it. You don't have that problem here in Indianapolis.
It's all about speed, baby. Indianapolis, the city of speed. I love it, man. Well, I want to dive into the big problem that you talked about that business owners and business leaders across the state are dealing with. And that's talent attraction, talent retention. I've seen a stat. I always butcher stats, so I don't even try to get them right. But we help educate a lot of people. IU, Purdue, Notre Dame. We export a lot of college graduates to other places. They come to Indiana for 4 years and they go somewhere else to grow their career. How is the state thinking about solving that problem of retaining our college graduates and scaling up the current market of Indiana?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And, there are really three levers when you think about skilled workforce. One is developing homegrown Hoosiers, and love to talk about that. The second is what you're digging into, which is retaining college graduates. And then the third is attracting folks who don't currently live in Indiana here, whether they're boomerangs, which is, somebody who's got an Indiana connection, or whether they're just brand new entrepreneurs or brand new workforce who's looking for a place to live.
All right, so let's start at the first one then.
Sure.
Developing homegrown Hoosiers. So from a workforce attraction, retention, upskilling, how is the state or Indy Chamber thinking of developing homegrown Hoosiers to help meet these workforce needs?
90,000 Hoosiers roughly turn 18 every year. Around 81,000, so 90% of them are graduating from high school. That's not bad. Love for it to be 100%, but that's not bad. Only about 55% are pursuing any sort of post-secondary credential. Only 55% are going to college or going to trade school. That number is way too low. And then unfortunately, only a small percentage, or about half of those, complete. So when you think about all the leakage in that pipeline, we go from 90,000 Hoosiers turning 18 every year to about 30,000 of those 90 who are earning some sort of college or trade school credential. And without that, they just can't participate in today's economy. So it's a downer for them. They can't fully participate in the economy. And it's a huge bummer for Indiana employees and for the Indiana economy, because that's 60,000 Hoosiers every single year who are being left on the economic sidelines and are not an asset for us as we think about attracting new employers and growing our current business.
90,000 new 18-year-olds every year. 55% of that start something.
Only about a third complete.
And only a third of that, so 30,000, that's where we got that number, 30,000 complete.
Yep.
This is not just 4-year bachelor degree college, this is any sort of post-secondary education?
Yeah, 4-year degree, 2-year degree, trade credential, any of those things.
How does that compare against, let's say, Ohio, Illinois?
Yeah, it's about the national average. There are certainly some states that are outperforming us, including some of our neighbors, but it's about the national average. And I think it's easy to sort of say, okay, then we're doing fine. That's the wrong perspective. If we want to break out from being the tallest of some short geographies when it comes to talent attraction and economic growth, we're going to do it on the backs of a larger skilled workforce.
And then let's put that, I don't know if you'll know this number off the top of your head. How many people are coming from outside of the state to Indianapolis or Indiana to get educated?
Yeah, so every fall, we're importing about 25,000 out-of-state students. So that's awesome, right? I mean, and let me just say, I've had the chance to work really closely with, I'm an IU guy, as you said, but I've had a chance to work really closely with all of our incredible higher ed institutions. The resources we have here, we have 3 AAU universities, Purdue, Indiana, and
what's AAU stand for?
Association of American Universities. So it's sort of the upper echelon from an academic perspective. We have so many other incredible private and public colleges and universities across the state. It's amazing that that's become a magnet for talent to the state. But while we import 25,000 every fall, and you mentioned this earlier, we export 34,000 graduates every spring. So we actually have fewer recent college graduates every year than we have.
Oh, yeah, I see that, like a 9,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good preface for the conversation we're about to go into. I do want to kind of dive in. So 90,000 to 55% of that. What is the state doing to solve that issue?
Yeah, I think 2 big things that we work on. I think there are a lot of folks doing a lot of incredible things. The first thing we work on is we do want to encourage folks to continue to go to college, right? The second thing I'll talk about is an alternative to the traditional college path, but we'd like to see more folks every year going to our incredible colleges and universities. There's the 21st Century Scholars Program, which is a program we have been big supporters of and advocates for, provides some assistance and state support for folks who might be first-generation college students, haven't had the same upbringing and opportunity or exposure to that opportunity that others have had. We want to see increased college going of students who are ready to go to college. There are other students who college may not be the best fit for them initially, so they might not prefer the classroom environment. They might prefer the work environment. They might like the idea of taking some time before they go to a four-year degree, earning some money, building some skills and experience. And in Indiana and across the country, we've really never had a good alternative for those types of students. 100% of our students go through a college preparatory experience in high school, even though only a third of them will ultimately earn that college degree in Indiana and be able to use it. So we have been working with a bunch of partners to support an initiative called the Indiana Career Apprenticeship Pathway or Youth Apprenticeship. When you think of apprenticeship, you immediately think about the trades and you think about adults. Our focus has been how do we take that and expand it to all industries, all functions, and to young students, to high school students, high school and college age students. The Chamber took a group, I mentioned the trip to Nashville earlier. We took a group in 2023 to Zurich, Switzerland. And the reason we went to Zurich was not just the sights, although it's a beautiful place. It's because they have this incredible apprenticeship model where 70% of their high school students, instead of the traditional college prep path, go down this work-based learning path of apprenticeship. They spend anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 years with part of their time in the classroom learning relevant skills to their chosen profession, and the rest of their time they spend in the workplace. And that means they come out of that experience with money in their pocket, with a job, with a credential of value, with a network. And that is really unique. So we're interested in how we can bring that same model here to the United States, and specifically how can Indiana lead the way. And thanks to the leadership of Claire Fidian Green in particular at the Fairbanks Foundation, this has just been a passion project for her, and she has just done an incredible job. And then great part, Dave Becker is from First Internet Bank is her co-chair, but we've had incredible support from the government, the governor and the legislature, incredible support from higher ed and Ivy Tech, and incredible support from employers as well. So we're excited about this. We think Indiana can lead the way for the United States in pioneering this youth apprenticeship model.
And like, what kind of jobs are you placing these kids or skilling them up for?
Yeah, and that's the big difference, and there's a bit of a marketing challenge here too, because people hear apprenticeship and think electricians and plumbers, and that's great, and that's a huge, important part of the economy, and we need more electricians and plumbers, and those are great jobs, so we do hope some folks will pursue apprenticeships in those trades. But in Switzerland, you can get an apprenticeship in retail banking, you can get an apprenticeship in marketing, you can get an apprenticeship in data analytics, in teaching, in elementary education or secondary education. You can become a nurse through apprenticeship. So it's really the whole gamut. Here, we've focused initially on a few industries where there is just incredible demand for workforce. Those industries are healthcare and life sciences, advanced manufacturing, and banking and insurance. So those are the places we started. We're now expanding that to construction and the trades, to microelectronics and IT, and to hospitality, tourism, and sports. So some of the industries we're best known for. So we're excited about it. We're hoping to start enrolling some students this fall in the apprenticeship model. There were changes to the diploma, changes to legislation to allow all this to happen that we advocated really hard for. And now we're excited to see where it goes. The hope is to have 50,000 Hoosiers participate in apprenticeships over the next decade.
50,000.
50,000.
Holy smokes. I think I saw something about like the new diplomas or something this was put into effect, where it's like realizing that college, not all the degrees are built for college preparatory, and some of them are built for getting your apprenticeship and going into whether it's the trades or an industry to go get a job. I do remember seeing
Yep.
this come through. It was probably this past November.
Yeah, and among the partners that have been incredible supporters of this work include Secretary Katie Jenner and Commissioner Chris Lowry at the Department of Education and the Commission for Higher Education, respectively. And so a lot of work has gone into what are the infrastructure changes we need to make to allow for this kind of model. So they've been incredible partners, and we're really excited that both of them have continued to stay in their roles here in the Braun administration.
So the first pillar of talent attraction, workforce development starts with a high school kid, right? I think you said developing homegrown
Hoosiers, yep.
Yep. So making sure people are prepped, whether the route is college or it's trade school or it's getting a job, like going to become contributing members of society. That's great. The next piece is there's this deficit of 25,000 new undergrads start. What was the number?
Yeah, every fall we import 25,000 new students from out of state, which is amazing. We can expose them to Indiana. They'll be here for 4 or 5 years. But every spring we're sending out 34,000 college graduates. So we are net sort of losing recent college graduates at the moment.
So how is the state thinking about flipping those numbers, right? Where we're keeping more college graduates than we're losing?
Yeah, I think there's two ways to think about it. And I think a lot of focus at the State House and elsewhere has been, do we need to change the inputs? Do we need to require colleges and universities, public colleges and universities, to have more Indiana students in their incoming classes? And I think that's interesting, and I understand the reason that they'd want to go down that path. My sense is it's not the right path. We should lean in to the fact that our colleges and universities are attracting so many students from around the world. Not that long ago, Purdue and IU were 60-70% in-state students. Today, IU's about 50-50, Purdue's about 60-40 out of state, and that's a reflection of the improved reputations and all the folks from around the country and around the world who want to be here. I would rather see us focus on keeping those out-of-state and international students who come to those colleges and universities here in Indiana.
Yeah, it's like a good magnet of like people's first exposure to the state of Indiana. You're right. You come to one of these great institutions, and then you have to make the conscious decision to pick up and leave.
Yep.
And because you maybe don't feel like you're a part of the community, or you haven't gotten entwined into the business culture, or there's just, you don't see the easy pathway for your life after graduation here.
That's right. And I do think, when I was a student at IU, had a lot of friends who were from the Northeast in particular and around the country. The number of them who never came to Indianapolis except to go to the airport was staggering, right? And so I think one of the first opportunities we need to look at is, how do we get students from around the state, but especially those within a 60 to 90 minute drive of Indianapolis, how do we get them here? How do we expose them to Indianapolis earlier in their college careers? Give them a curated experience, allow them to see all the great things that we have to offer here. Because if they never get here, if they never see it, if they never experience it, likely they're not going to pursue work-based learning opportunities here, like an internship here or a co-op here. And if they don't do that, the chances that we can keep them full-time are slim. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that number was so high, where it's people coming to the airport and then they just take 465 or whatever and they get to their university and they never go and go out downtown and check out what's going on, go to a Pacers game, go to a Colts game.
That's right. And, Columbus, Ohio does better than us on college graduate retention. And I think they've got a bit of an unfair advantage because the largest state school in Ohio is in Columbus, which is a place where you can start your career, build your career, have a life. And all Ohio State graduates could do that. I love Bloomington like nowhere else in the world, but I knew as a college student at IU that I probably couldn't build my whole career in Bloomington.
Yeah, it's like you can't graduate. I don't know, what's an IU graduating class every year?
It's 10,000-ish.
Right, like you can't have 10,000 people stay there every single year. Whereas in Columbus or something like that, like you could definitely have a lot of Ohio State grads stay there.
That's right.
So how's the state thinking about solving the problem? Right. So first, get people more exposed to Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think, this is an emerging area. If I'm being honest, it's been a big topic of discussion for us, and we've been socializing these ideas, and I think had really positive reception from employers, and certainly employers need to be a big part of this, exposing folks to the work and employment landscape. I think our cultural and sports and entertainment and culinary partners are all really excited about the idea of meeting new customers. And then similarly, I think our colleges and universities are excited about the idea as well. It makes a lot more sense to let the free market to compete, let Indianapolis compete for their talent. And so I think everyone's pretty excited about the idea. More to come on this. It's going to be a big area of focus for us and for Blaine Zimmerman on our team, who this is a top priority for him is working with those partners to figure out how we keep more of these college graduates in Indiana.
All right, folks, Mother's Day is around the corner, and I'm going to help you get prepared. Ditch the Amazon or Target candle and get mom something from Warm Glow Candle Company. They're based out in Centerville, Indiana, and they make some of the best candles I have ever smelled. They have made my house smell unreal. They aren't your average candle that burns out in 5 minutes. Oh no, your mom is going to get tons of use out of this, and every time she lights it, she's going to be thinking about how you are her favorite child. I love the apple cinnamon and the creamy vanilla bean, but my absolute favorite is the blueberry cobbler. It smells just like visiting my grandma's house after she spent all Saturday morning baking. If you've ever driven east down 70, you have probably seen their massive candle where the shop is, but you can also order online and they'll ship them right to your door. I know you're going to get your mom a candle for Mother's Day. Now you can do that and support an awesome Hoosier business in the process. Head to warmglow.com to check out all their amazing scents. Now let's get back to the episode. Okay, I like that. And then what was the third pillar of?
The third pillar is attracting new talent, right? So this is, and we talked about the brand earlier. I think the brand is an important piece of this. We need folks outside of Indianapolis to think differently about Indianapolis, which we hope will make them more likely to consider us when they move. Another interesting opportunity in that third pillar is the so-called boomerangs. So folks who went to college here but left, folks who are from here but left the state to go to college or left the state for a full-time job. But they're a few years in, maybe they're discovering that the cost of living in Chicago or the cost of living in Nashville is higher than they'd like, especially as they're thinking about starting a family, getting married, settling down. We see a lot of those folks come back organically. We're having some conversations, and this is not a new idea. Mitch Daniels, when he was governor, focused a lot on this. But I don't think we've quite cracked the nut yet, but we think there's a lot of promise in let's go get them. Let's not wait for them to come to us. Let's go promote to them, let them know all the great things that are waiting for them here in Indianapolis.
Like, how are you promoting that to boomerang? Like people that move away to get them to come back?
Yeah, really both college students and boomerangs are a marketer's dream because we know who they are, right? The data's there. You've got to assemble it from a variety of different sources. But we know who they are, we know where they are, especially with college students, we know how to reach them. We just need to do it. We need to identify that target audience. It's tens of thousands of people, it's not millions of people. And then we need to tailor really compelling messaging, leaning into that new brand, talking about speed and all the things they'll be able to do here in Indianapolis really fast. And then we need to go deliver it the way any marketer would.
So if you could go out there and have 10,000 conversations to someone who moved away from Indianapolis, what would you tell them?
That this is the fastest city in the world. It is a place where you can come, you can experience world-class sports, you can have an incredible career, build an incredible career. You can get from downtown Indianapolis to suburban, urban, rural, to some of the best state parks in the country, to Lake Michigan. You can get to all these places really quickly from central Indiana. The quality of life is extraordinary, but it's not slow. There is so much opportunity to lean in here, build a great career here, grow an incredible family here, and hopefully continue to help us thrive.
We're going to clip that and go, send this to your friend who moved out of Indiana. And then boom, there's your sales pitch. 10,000 people that moved out of Indiana are going to see that and be like, shoot, I got to move home now, right? I do think there's a huge opportunity for that when they already have ties here, whether it's family or they're from here. And it's like, oh man, I do see a lot of people that move away and they're like, I want to get a different experience. And a lot of them, again, this is my circle, but a lot of them end up coming back because like there is something special and it's hard to market just what is so special about Indianapolis. Like it's hard to tell people. I know the biggest thing everyone says is like, you're only one phone call away from anyone you want to meet in the city or whatever. And it's like, how do you really market that? But it's so true.
It is true. And we see that as speed too, right? I mean, your ability to build a network here fast. And I'm a great example of that. I'm not from here. I chose, after I graduated from IU, I went out east for 3 years. I was working for Lilly in New York, and then I came back working for Lilly here in Indianapolis. The speed with which I was able to build a network, get plugged into the community, and sort of have those roles and jobs that you talked about at the beginning of the podcast, I just can't imagine in other places being afforded that opportunity.
Are you from Indiana originally, right?
I'm not. I'm from Champaign, Illinois. So
Champaign, Illinois to IU, then you went up to New York, and then you came back?
Yeah, yep.
Heck yeah. And you could have gone back to Champaign, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
was that a thought for you?
Yeah. I went to high school in West Lafayette. So I grew up in Champaign, went to high school in West Lafayette, undergrad in Bloomington, went out to Boston.
Where'd you go to high school in West Lafayette?
I was at Harrison.
Okay, so did your family move to West
Yeah,
Lafayette?
my dad was staff at University of Illinois, ran the student union, and then he did the same thing at Purdue for 25 years or so. Just retired a few years ago. So I'm sort of a Big Ten brat.
Yeah.
I grew up around University of Illinois, and then around Purdue, and then around IU. Almost went to Michigan. I was really interested in going to Michigan for grad school. Ended up at Harvard instead, but it was.
Oh, I ended up at Harvard instead. Yeah, it's
yeah,
sick, dude.
it was cheaper. It was a better deal.
No
It was a better
way.
deal, yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's so fun to be able to spend time in 3 different Big Ten cities.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, so you went up and you went to New York and then you decided to move back. What was attracting to Indianapolis for you?
Yeah, I was probably predisposed, although I think in my heart I missed it. And as I got to Boston, spent a couple years in Boston, I think I did get a little bit homesick. But I was looking hard for a job outside of Indiana. I thought maybe Chicago, maybe the Northeast. But I was ultimately drawn away from financial services and consulting, which was what a lot of my classmates were doing, toward an operating company. I wanted to go build something, make something, run something. And thought about going to a consumer packaged goods company like a Procter & Gamble or a General Mills. But then I wondered how I'd feel getting up every morning, going to bed every night, thinking about cereal. And instead thought, you know what, I want to go learn how to be a great marketer. But I want to do it in an industry that is mission aligned for me. So that's what took me to Lilly. And I wasn't looking to come to Indianapolis. I just thought Lilly was the best of the pharma companies that I engaged with out there in Boston. And that led me back here. First time I lived in Indianapolis was when I was an intern for Lilly.
Heck yeah. I think I have a similar, not actually that similar at all, but not from Indianapolis. Came here after I graduated from DePaul, and you talk about speed, like building a community of, I in 5 years went from, I was like a general business development guy at an insurance company when I was an OR fellow, to like running a company that promotes the state of Indiana, and I have amazing guests on it. I've built, like, my dad didn't play golf with anyone that I get to bring on the podcast. Like, it's all from people that took a call from me or like answered an email or a text, and it's just incredible. Like, you could truly build this momentum and this speed of your career, of your family. I could go on and on.
Yeah,
and on.
you just mentioned the OR fellowship, right? I think one of the things for us that's so important about all of this is when we think about Indy's brand, it doesn't belong to the chamber. We have tried really hard to help quarterback the effort and convene collaborators and partners. But whether it's the OR Fellowship, whether it's Visit Indy, whether it is any of the other, whether it's IU, whether it's Purdue, whether it's employers, we all own Indy together and Indy's identity together. So I'm excited to work with folks like Stephen and the OR Fellowship.
They're great.
To lean in on this.
Well, that could bring us right into this segment. Is the Younger Years segment, brought to you by our friends at OR Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana helping develop young business leaders across the state. So, Matt, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
I had such an unusual journey that I'd be afraid to make any decision differently than I did. I'm pretty proud of having no regrets. Although I do think if I step back and think about the journey, there were probably a lot of ways that it could have gone wrong. So honestly, I would tell my 22-year-old self not to change a thing because I'm just so happy with the way things have turned out personally, professionally. I'm glad to be here in Indianapolis. So yeah, I'd tell them not to change a thing.
That's good advice. Keep rolling, keep on keeping on. As you look forward to what's coming down the pipeline for Indy Chamber, what are some initiatives coming in 2025 and beyond that we can be excited about?
Yeah, we really do 3 primary things. We serve existing businesses in central Indiana. I just came from one of our Hispanic Business Council events this morning where there were a couple hundred people getting together to hear from their colleagues and their peers about ways to grow personally and professionally and to succeed in business. We have a robust set of service offerings for business. We have master classes where you can come in and learn about something that is really relevant today. Think about cybersecurity, or think about digital marketing, or think about the DEI landscape. You can learn about sort of what others and what best practices are in those spaces. We make loans. We're one of very few chambers across the country that also has a community development financial institution. So we make loans to small businesses, gap loans, provide growth capital, especially to folks who may be unbanked or underbanked, so might not have an established credit score, or be able to go get that loan from a traditional bank. So that's another service.
How does someone go about getting involved in that program?
Yeah, so the Business Ownership Initiative is the name of the lending initiative. And if you just go to indychamber.com, you can find your way to those resources and many others. So coaching, training, education, masterclasses, loans, We help small businesses navigate big company procurement processes, right? So one of the big barriers that small businesses have to crossing the chasm and growing is how hard it can be to break through Eli Lilly's procurement structure. We have worked with partners like Eli Lilly and like IU Health and like Elevance and Anthem and others across the community to teach those small businesses, here's how you do it. Here's how you cross that chasm, take the next step in your growth.
Is there like a poster child business, a small business that you guys have helped and that has been out there crushing it?
I'm gonna get this wrong, but one of my favorite stories, I think it's Market Square Popcorn. Small company came to BOI for a loan when they were brand new. We provided them with a loan. They got exposed through some connections to folks at Patriot Sports Entertainment and folks related to the All-Star game, ended up having the opportunity to engage with their popcorn around All-Star festivities last year. That led them to more exposure to where they needed a larger space. So we provided them a loan to help them move into a larger space, buy more capital equipment. And now, they're helping us go out and convince others that this is a great opportunity.
Market Square Popcorn?
I believe it's Market Square Popcorn.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man. Any other programs, initiatives that people need to know about?
Yeah. So, again, I think that's sort of serving existing businesses. The second big thing that we work on is attracting new businesses. I know you just had Mayor Scott Willis on the podcast recently. Love Scott. I love all of our regional mayors and all of our regional leaders. So we've got what's called the Indy Partnership, which is about 25 municipal and county partners from across that 10-county region. It includes Mayor Willis in Westfield. It includes Mayor Finkham in Carmel, Mayor Jensen in Noblesville, Mayor Stair in Zionsville, Mayor Gentry in Lebanon, Mayor Myers in Greenwood.
This is impressive.
Yeah, we've got all these municipalities, incredible partners doing incredible work. But again, it's all about working together, right? When although you heard just how ambitious Scott Willis is up in Westfield and all the great things happening there, we've got ambitious mayors and ambitious leaders across the region, and that's great. And sometimes we can be competitive, but sometimes we need to zoom out and work together. One voice, let's go sell folks on Central Indiana first, and then let's fight over it once they've decided to come here to the Indy region and to Central Indiana. I'm actually heading right after this to what we call our Accelerate Indy Council meeting, and it's all those mayors and town council presidents from the municipalities that are in the partnership. It's also all of our biggest corporate stakeholders and corporate investors. And then it's a bunch of civic and philanthropic and higher education leaders, 40 or so people who are the folks who are going to determine where Indy goes next. So I'm just so proud and so excited to be able to be the convener and at times sort of the quarterback of this economic development effort for Central Indiana. So that's the next big pillar for us and more to come there. The final one we've already talked about, talent, man. It's all about workforce and homegrown Hoosiers, college graduate retention, and attracting those boomerangs and new Hoosiers.
Well, I mean, this has been a masterclass in how to better sell Central Indiana to anyone that might be hesitant or, not quite sure if it's the place for them to grow their career. I think whether you're, looking to start a family, you're looking to be in a great entrepreneurial ecosystem, you're looking for speed. Like there's a place for you here in Central Indiana. And I hope that people share this podcast out as like a little sales pitch for those.
And it starts with us, man. And I think that's the thing that has changed in Nashville. You can feel it. People are proud to live there. And I think privately, people in Indianapolis and the Indy region are proud to live here, but they don't do a great job telling that story. I think there's this Hoosier humility that is out there and exists. We need to trade, a bit of that Hoosier humility for a bigger dose of confidence. A great brand is a half step ahead of reality. We need to be out there telling folks we're better than we are. And today we're not even telling them how great we really are.
Well, there's someone out there that's marketing how great the state of Indiana is all the time and has dedicated his life and career to it thus far, right? So join me on this quest of telling people how great Indiana is, guys. It's amazing. And it is so true. Like the number one thing that I did that shifted that mindset was when you go up to Chicago or you go to Columbus and people ask where you're from, you say, Indianapolis, like with some confidence, some gusto, right? Versus like, yeah, I'm from Indiana. Like there's nothing to fight. It's like, no, there's tons of stuff to do here. It is a great place to live and you should be proud of it and talk about it with pride. So then people receive it and have that image as they're thinking about it.
And the next time you're asked, you can say you're from Indianapolis, the city of speed, Nate.
Bang. Let's go. All right. You have time for the lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
Amazing. Okay. So We kind of just went through and talked about how great Indianapolis is. If there is one thing you could add to the city of Indianapolis or Central Indiana, what would you add?
I'm going to say an MLS soccer team right now. Let's do it.
Oh, man, that's been in and out. You have to go back to, I think I had Leonard on, and he talked about what's going on at the stadium and how we get MLS soccer, but that would be sweet.
Yeah, MLS is it is in growing cities. So there's a lot of other things we need to do too, other than just soccer, but MLS locates where young talent is attracted, so it would be great to have that MLS team.
I mean, you talk about business, you went to Harvard. What's been the most influential business book you've read?
The Innovator's Solution. So my favorite professor at Harvard, Clayton Christensen, he passed away a few years ago. Incredible guy. He coined the term disruptive innovation, which you've probably heard folks talk about. The Innovator's Solution will change the way you think about business and change the way you think about life.
Do you know Elliot Parker from High Alpha?
Yes.
Innovation. His book referenced that book. His is The Illusion of Innovation, and he references that book. He's also a Harvard Business School grad.
Yep.
So there's a whole, you go back and listen to that episode, he talks about going through innovation and all that stuff.
It's an incredible book. Change the way I think about things.
Amazing. Okay, so you gave a shout out to Market Square Popcorn. Is there another small business in Central Indiana that you want to give some love to?
I want to give love to all small businesses in Central Indiana, so I'm going to stick with that. Again, we've got 2,000 members, and they represent all parts of the economy. It's so fun. This morning I was with folks from Connor Painting. I was with folks from small restaurants. It's just incredible, the diversity of business that's out there. So I love all those partners and want to see them all succeed.
From a business owner perspective, what's the sales pitch to join the Indy Chamber?
Yeah. I think number one, our goal is to provide folks with direct ROI. So we want you to see the return on the dollars you're investing with us. There's a variety of ways to do that. We offer a health plan. I didn't mention that earlier, so you can save money almost right away just by having a health plan for small and mid-sized businesses that saves you money versus today. I mentioned all those other services that we provide: coaching, loans, et cetera. And then we do the traditional chamber stuff. We've got great events for networking, B2B marketing. So the goal is for all that to deliver you plenty of value that exceeds the price of your membership, and then all the good that you're doing for Central Indiana and for the community. That's just gravy. And I love that idea, because I do think we've got folks who want both. They want to grow themselves, but we have so many folks who care so much about the Indy region.
Heck yeah. What is something the world needs to know about Indiana?
How talented our people are. I'll go with that. I just think about, again, we talked about those colleges and universities. One of the jobs we see for ourselves is selling Indiana employers on the Indiana workforce, right? There are so many companies that will go outside of Indiana for their talent. They don't need to. I mean, it's great to bring folks to Indiana, but there's incredible talent coming out of our colleges and universities. There's incredible talent coming out of our trade schools and technical schools, incredible talent that will be coming out of the Indiana Career Apprenticeship pathway. So I think folks around the world, and really folks starting right here, need to recognize how talented our people are.
Great answer. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
I'm going to say our state parks. I grew up in Illinois, coming over to Indiana to go to our incredible state parks: Turkey Run, Brown County, Spring Mill, Pokagon. These are incredible places, and they're not far from Indianapolis. Again, you can sort of get to all those places really quickly. So I think everyone who lives in Indy should get out to some of those places, enjoy nature a bit.
Great answer. That's a recurring theme I feel like we hear, is a lot of people like either pick one or just say the park system in general, like down to Clifty Falls, up to the dunes, yep. Pokagon. Like there are some awesome Chano Lakes up there too. There's some awesome state parks all around the state. And I'm excited, like the weather's about to turn and it's going to be perfect state park weather.
Yep, I agree. People don't think of us as a place to go to experience nature, but I think really compared to surrounding states, it's pretty incredible.
Dude, I just went up. This isn't a state park. It's a county park. Cataway Park in Hamilton County up by Noblesville. Yep. Crazy cool. It has like a sled, not a toboggan run, but a tubing run, 700 feet. It has like a lake, archery, equestrian. Like I was blown away by how cool this place was, and no one's talking about it. And I was like, this is a Saturday night, like go up for 2 hours, sled for a while, look on the tubes. They have a lift to get you back into the top.
Mayor Chris Jensen's glad you like it. He'll want you to come on back.
Exactly. Final question for you. Who's a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
I'm going to go back to Christian Anderson. I don't know what he's going to do next, but that guy, he's had such an incredible career, varied like mine, but way more impressive than mine. And I think the work he's going to do at High Alpha, the work he's done through his various other companies and investments and initiatives are just incredible. And I have never met a stronger advocate for the state, for the city of Indy. His statement is that Indy was good to him before he was good to it. And I just think Christian's going to accomplish some incredible things. Already has, but I can't wait to see where he goes next.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You bet.
Thank you for all the work you're doing with the Indy Chamber and supporting, growing, nurturing, caring for, stewarding the brand that is Central Indiana. Obviously, you guys have come a long way, and there's still a lot more work that we need to do. Marketing our region to others, retaining this talent, the college grads, right? Helping close that deficit, get more people to stay here, start your career in Central Indiana. And I'm just really grateful to have awesome leaders like you guys, Blaine, the rest of the crew at Indy Chamber, doing this great work that's super important and often, I think, overlooked. I think people think about Chamber of Commerce and they're like, and it's like, no, man, the more I interact with you guys, the more impressed that I am, the more great work I see y'all doing, from the Your Life in Indy stuff to marketing, talking about speed, different ways you're thinking about growing our region. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you, Nate. It's great to be on the podcast, and it's great to have you helping us tell our story. So thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.